Hello, everybody, and welcome to the show. I'm always excited to talk to somebody that knows more than me about finances. And that is basically everybody, because it is a big role, and it is in the healthcare and medical industry. It's a necessary evil sometimes, I feel like, for the doctors that I've worked with to work with people that they trust, because they're, if you've been living under a rock, you've never heard of somebody that has stolen money or done some bad investing or had a horrific partnership. So we're going to talk about some of the things that we want you all to be aware of in the medical industry, how to protect yourself, how to invest, how to grow financially and not get screwed, to basically make it simple. So I have Eric Miller here with me today. He's the co-owner of right. I mean, it's like, that's, I don't know, when I'm reading something, I always mess it up, of
Econologics. There you go.
Econologics. Yep.
That's right.
Takes a second, right? Financial advisors, and the chief financial advisor who has had over 20,000 conversations with practice. I feel like I've had the same amount of conversations with practice owners regarding personal and business financial success. So Eric, first and foremost, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. It's nice to talk to you, neighbor.
Yeah, and we are literal neighbors. His office, without us knowing, is a block away from where I live, and I bring Charlie Brown into his parking lot every morning, and I swear we pick up the poop.
That is fun.
So, with that said, I love that you help private practice owners to have an abundance of income streams, because it is a very touchy subject in the world of healthcare and doctors owning businesses and learning how to make their business profitable. So Eric, can you, before we get into the nitty gritty, can you just tell us a little bit about you and why you decided to have this company and do it right here in Tampa Bay?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from Ohio originally, but I decided to move down to Florida, and it was 2008 when we decided to open up the company, and that was 2008. What a great year to open up a financial company with everything kind of like burning down around you. But we did it, and we knew that we wanted to work with a niche, and we wanted to work with people that we felt, number one, that we believed in what they did. And I think that's important. Like, I wanted to believe in the kind of care that someone gives, whatever value they bring. I want to believe in that, and I want to help them so that they can do more of that. Because financial obstacles are a big deal, and when people aren't right with their money, it doesn't allow them to expand. So we wanted to work with someone that we felt we could help, but that also was in charge of their own destiny as well. So we didn't work with, we could have worked with engineers or hospital people or, teachers or anything else, but I wanted to work with people that, that really had control over their own financial destiny. So we started working with private practice owners, and I just fell in love with it because the people were so genuine. They were caregivers. They loved to help people. And I was like, but I saw they were very underserved in the kind of financial advice that they were getting. And that was a real problem. And their practices were growing in some instances, but their household was not seeing the benefits of that, because people that anybody runs a business, it's like, my business is more important than my household. And 10 years later, your household's still in debt. You don't have any reserves. You're not prepared.
Yeah.
So we just took that and said, okay, we're going to fix this, and we're going to make sure that they get correct financial advice. So we show practice owners how to better utilize their practice and their profits to improve the financial condition of their household. And, we started working with physical therapists, and it's morphed into really anybody that has a private practice that is really in control of your cash flow. We can help.
I love it. And you have a partner in business as well?
Yes. My partner is Diane. She is I guess I would be considered like the advisor. She's she's the CEO approach, and it works because, I like to get out there and talk to owners and talk to people. And then we have a group of advisors that I coach that are actually doing the one-on-one consulting with our clients, because it takes that, one thing
she's also a financial advisor.
She's not a financial advisor.
Okay.
So
good.
she's not a financial advisor. So that's me. She
Good.
handles that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I love that. I think that there should be a mix. I think that
Yeah.
that's, I didn't start out in medicine. I started in telecom, and there's transferable skills. And I think that it's important to surround ourselves with people that, are not just thinking about financial, but also about business and how we can talk to our clients and serve them best. So you moved here from Ohio.
Mhm.
You started up. Do you live here in Pinellas or do you live in Tampa?
I live in Largo. Or I'm sorry, I live in Clearwater. I live I live north of Drew Street.
Love it.
And yeah,
You're
so
a
I've been there.
local.
I'm a local.
Great. So, so let me just share a little bit about, because I want to have a raw conversation about what goes on. As somebody who has had the great pleasure of managing practices herself, and now being on my own for almost 10 years, having the great luxury of seeing how this subject is as scary at my client offices as they were at the ones that I was managing. So there is this, there's a fear surrounding money. There's a fear surrounding taxes. There's a fear surrounding anything that says like buy sell agreement or, just it's a lot. I worked with a practice that I begged for 8 years to buy the building or to buy a building because they had been renting for almost 50.
Wow.
Yeah, thank you. Wow. That's what I said when I joined the practice. But there's only so much, right? So doctors, from my experience, and I have had the great privilege and I adore them. And what would we do without our healthcare workers? But really, it's not their strength, and it's really important that we bring in people that we trust to help us navigate through the financial part. But when I would get a phone call like that, somebody new wants to meet with whatever company it was, whatever financial advisor it was always like, no, we're just going to stay with our neighbor that, we've known for a long time. It's not his strength actually to work in our industry, but we're going to stick with him because he hasn't like screwed us completely yet. So
It's sad. It's sad that that's the standard though in
Yeah.
financial people. It's like, well, he didn't screw me, so I guess that he, you know what I mean? It's like,
Yes.
I get it. That's important. It's just sad that the financial industry has gotten that low where that's the standard,
Yeah. And I think that there's some great people out there in the industry, but I also think that there's a reputation surrounding financial advisors. There's so many, right?
Mhm.
Who can you trust? So you just kind of stick with one and then you get all sameness for years and years and years where it's not actually helping you with your own personal investments, your personal life. It's really hindering you. So how do you get in? How do you, there's a great book called Never Eat Alone by Keith Ferrazzi, where, it's coming toward, what is it? Something about the gatekeeper, getting past the gatekeeper. So how do you, as a financial advisor, get into these practices?
Oh, well, as far as our marketing is concerned, I speak the language of practice owners. So, we've had so many experiences with them, 20,000 conversations. Like I know the challenges.
Mhm.
Some of my best friends are practice owners.
Mhm.
So I know the challenges that they go through. So I know that they have difficulty managing staff. I know that they have difficulty figuring out where their profits are at the end of the month. I know they have difficulty managing debt and making decisions and all those things. So I can speak to that when we go out there and get our message out. That I've had 20,000 conversations with practice owners. I've helped a number of them exiting out of their practice, and I know what they're going to do. I know, like I can tell a veterinarian. I know their nomenclature. I know what a vet tech is and what a spay and neuter is. I can speak their language, and I think when I do that, they trust me because they know that I've had experience with them.
Yeah.
So that certainly helps. But I think to your point, because you had said something about fear and what stops people from pulling the trigger. And one thing I think is that no one really has like what should my ideal financial condition look like? Like there's a lot of people that'll give you different pieces of like what my ideal financial condition will look like. That's where I start with most people. It's like, what if everything were perfect or as close to perfect as we can get it, because we can never get to perfection. But in general, what would your financial life look like if it were exactly how you want it to look? And I dare say it would look like this. So you'd have a household that had an abundance of income coming in from multiple sources, where you're free of all bad debt, not good debt, bad debt, where you've created a reliable income stream that can pay for your lifestyle. Your business is profitable, sustainable, transferable. Your assets are protected from taxes, inflation, and lawsuits, and you have time to pursue whatever life goals that you have. You start there. Yeah.
One of my favorite conversations is, so Doc, tell me about your financial advisor. Oh, we have a really great accountant.
Yeah.
Okay. No, that's not what I asked you. I asked you to tell me about your financial advisor. Well, I've been with my accountant for years and he really has a great understanding. And I really, really can't believe how many times I have heard that. Or, something about a bookkeeper, and they're so different. They're so different, and they should not be advising on these important elements. So have you come across that? I'm sure you have.
We've surveyed clients, we've surveyed practice owners, and 40% of them will say that they trust their CPA the most. And nothing against CPAs.
No, I love mine.
I'm sure we all, and you need to have a good financial team. But I just tend to find CPAs, number one, are going to be super conservative. Number two, they're not necessarily entrepreneurial, and they're gonna tell you, you know what, I don't really think that you should expand right now. The numbers don't line up, and you shouldn't be doing this, or don't take that deduction because I've heard through the grapevine that the IRS may or may not. They just are. They're compliance officers, and their job is to make sure that your taxes are prepared on time, and they would help you navigate if there was an audit. But they're not looking for tax strategies. They're not looking to minimize your tax liability. Most of them aren't. I'm not saying all of them, but most of them aren't. But they don't really understand like the business side of your life and how that relates to your household. So I get it. You need them as part of your team, and you need a good bookkeeper to keep order into your finances, but that's not a strategy. That's not a strategy. Like, you need a strategy. Most of the time, like, I'll tell you, one of the first things that we tell practice owners to do is I want you to start taking 10% of your practice revenues and channel that to the household as owner compensation, not your practitioner pay, not your executive pay, as owner compensation for establishing this business and taking all the risk of doing it. It's like your entrepreneurial pay. And I thought
they don't know what you mean by that.
Yeah.
They're shocked.
Yeah, exactly. Like, what do you mean by entrepreneurial pay? I was like, well, you're an owner. And when you decided to be an owner, you took a risk, and all the mortgages are in your name. All the risks are on you. If a regulatory body comes in and says, hey, you shouldn't have overcharged this, they're going to come after you. So you need to get compensated for that risk. I thought I was going to be the biggest hero in the world when I gave permission to owners to I can finally take some profits and channel it to my household. Boy, accountants hated it.
Right.
Pushback from practice managers. I'm like, what is going on here? So I knew I was onto something right, because that was the case. But you see, you just get pushback.
Yes.
All the time. And that's one thing that you have to be certain about where you're going, because you're going to get pushback and resistance. And the worst part is it comes from people that you actually love and trust. Yeah. And that's the hardest part.
Yeah, it's so interesting. I always talk to my doctors about my own business. I say, okay, well, I suck at accounting and anything that has to do with bookkeeping or finances. So I have a financial advisor, I have a bookkeeper, and I have an accountant. And that is my financial team. And I trust them, and I go to them individually for different things. I certainly would never, and I love my accountant. My accountant is still in New York. I went through, I think, 4 of them in my own business because of these. When I heard that the same advice they were giving my doctors, oh, don't do that because that's too risky and you don't want to flag. And I'm like, I'm an independent consultant. Like, this is crazy. So I love that you're able to do that. So maybe they should understand too, a little bit more about, what it means to have a financial advisor. Like, how do they pay you?
Yeah, the traditional model for most advisors and what they do is say, hey, how much money do you have for me to invest? And I charge you a percentage for that. I mean, that's, or I'll sell you an insurance product and I'll get commissions on that. And that's most people's experience in working with a financial advisor. And while we certainly do that because we manage investments and those things, we focus on planning. Like we do planning. Like when I say planning, I'm like, okay, here's your destination. What are the things that you need to do to be able to get to that destination? And there's a plan in place, checklist involved of making sure that all these things are in place. And we do real planning. So we charge like that. I'm like, I charge a planning fee. We charge a monthly fee. But the experience, and I wanted to mention this, most people's experience with advisors is I talk to them maybe twice a year and we go over our portfolios and all these pretty pie charts and, showing me that if I just put away this much, I may or may not be able to have enough to not run out of money in 2050. Whippy, and it's like, wow, is that really the standard that you want? No. Your money is like a toddler at the mall. If you have kids, you take your attention off a toddler for like 2 seconds and it goes everywhere. Yeah. So money's the same thing. You have to pay attention to it. So, we're on phone calls with our clients, at least once a month. Nice. And like, okay, are these basic things in place that won't allow money to leak or to, get spread or so that you have control over it. So it's just a different model. We charge more. What we charge, people are like, wow, my other advisor doesn't charge. I'm like, yeah, look at the results you're getting now, right, with your existing advisor.
You can't get a filet mignon for the price of a hot dog, Eric.
Hey, there you go. It's true.
Yes.
And I mean, that's, again, we fight through those standards because people are so used to having an experience in one way. And we're like, I know this, but your experience is bad. Look at your results. You're not anywhere near where you want to be right now. So you need a kick in the pants.
Yes.
And that's really what we do, I think, pretty well, is that we hold people accountable and give them a kick in the pants when they need it, because most people don't have that in their life.
Yeah, well, I agree. And I'm a pants kicker. That's what I do.
Like it. Yeah.
I attribute a lot of that to growing up in New York and also learning from all of the mistakes that I've watched so many make. And it's very sad. And when I do come in to help with a practice or, those are part of my questions are, who's your healthcare attorney? Who's your CPA? Who's your financial advisor? And I usually get, we don't have a healthcare attorney on retainer. Okay.
Why not?
Yeah, why not? Well, You do have to, if you want great, you have to pay for great. If you want to be mediocre, you will pay in the end anyway.
You definitely need to build a good, competent team. And I'll stress the word competent, because a lot of people have a team, they're not competent because they don't know how to measure competency. They're like, well, how do I measure whether or not an advisor is good? And that's a fault of the advisors, because they should give them, some tools to show, like, your condition's better because you've hired us. And we've gotten these habits in place and we've established these systems and those kinds of things. Now, we happen to have a lot of that because we're big on metrics and statistics, because if you can't measure it, you can't manage it. But I think that's another missing piece with a lot of people, is they have a team, but they just don't have a way to measure the competency of them. CPAs, it's really simple. It's like my effective tax rate. What's the percentage? If it's super high, right, my CPA is not doing a good job.
Right.
you know?
And, everybody feels, I do think that the mindset needs to shift. Like every business owner knows that they need a CPA. Like you have to do your taxes, right? Or you
Right.
go in jail. But not everybody feels that they need a financial advisor. But let me be the first to tell you that you need a financial advisor,
You do.
because it's really, and, when we talk about our team, we also have to consider whoever is managing your team. I always say that people that have great practice managers don't need me. So if you're hiring me and you already have one, well, that's
Yeah.
my first flag. So let's figure out why you want to pay me and pay this person. Okay, cool. But I'm like, I get rid of all the cockroaches with a flashlight.
It's such a valuable thing because I don't think people realize one toxic person in your practice or even in your life they can destroy. I mean, that's what they do. And it's one of those things where I'm sure you've seen it. Once you get rid of a toxic person, it's like, oh my God, I've never seen like jumps in revenue. And like, that's the best financial advice I can give to people. Like get rid of, what in your life and you'll see progress. But I'll go back to that thing that you just talked about, is like buying that building, right? Now someone that doesn't understand a medical practice and the benefits of that, most advisors would say, well, don't buy the real estate, don't buy the building. Whereas it would be like, that would be a great strategy to do. It offsets taxes. It gives you an income stream going forward, stuff like that most advisors do not look at. Yeah. They're only looking at your investments. They're not looking at your practice. They're not looking at your real estate. They're not because they don't get paid for it.
Right.
So.
Right. But it's such an asset. It's such an 100%. Advantage to be able to do that. When I go into practices and I see space that's not being utilized, I just start thinking about, okay, so who can we bring in to rent space here? And they're like, what? How long have you had this space here not being utilized? Oh, it's been like this for 5 years. And I'm like,
right? We tell people the biggest expense. I ask people what their biggest expense is. And of course, I'll get all the standard answers: taxes, staff wages, cost of goods sold. I'm like, nope, not even close. I go, your biggest expense is money that you should have made, but you didn't. Lost income. And to the point you just made right there, like you have all this space right here that could see new patients. You could rent it out. How much money is that costed you? Multiply that by how many years that you haven't been doing anything about it. And, could you use an extra $200,000 that you could have had right here?
Right. Everything always comes back to, if you don't realize that you need help and should bring on experts to help you, because many a doctor I have met in my career that says, well, I'm going to try to rent out that space. That's a good idea, Sharon. I'm like, you can't do that. Right. You have to see patients. You will not be able to do it well, right? You might be able to do it, but you won't be able to do it well. So the hardest thing is to get people to understand that having people around you that are going to help support and build your company is what you need to be a successful business owner, whether it be a doctor, right? I mean, that's what everybody needs, and trust and all that good stuff. So, Eric, I'd love to bring you back again another time for like a part 2, because I think this is such an important conversation. I highly, highly encourage anybody that is listening, if you're a doctor, a physical therapist, a vet, whatever business you're in, you absolutely need to have an amazing financial advisor, somebody that's going to help you grow, right? Somebody's going to help you grow and monetize all of the things that you might not have thought of. Because it's great when you find cash floating around.
It's the best part, Well, yeah, anytime you want to, that'd be great. Just we'll connect and we'll figure out another time to do it.
Just come knock on your door next door. So I'm going to have all of your information in the show notes. I highly recommend that you get in touch and start thinking about just doing business better. And doing business better means getting people around you that care about you and care about your business. And it sounds like we have a friend in that with Eric Miller, who's right here in the Tampa Bay area, and I'm sure available for other other
Yes.
areas, not just Tampa Bay. All right,
we're,
Eric.
we're all 100. We're in all 50 states. We have clients in all 50
Beautiful. You
states.
heard that,
Yes.
everybody?
Yeah.
All right, Eric. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
So don't forget, if you mention that you've seen the show or listened to it on the podcast, mention Thai Technology and you will get 3 months for free.